Final Destination Bloodlines recently dropped to rave reviews. And I thought because of that, it was a good time to talk about a project that I'm not quite sure a lot of people know about. So you might know, just as an aside, Adam Stein, Zach Lipovsky, the directors of Final Destination Bloodlines. What you might not know is they also directed a little known gem that I feel like it's high time to talk about. And that movie is, of course, Freaks. Let's talk about it. Oh, I'm excited to talk about this one. This is one I really dug this movie. I discovered this a while ago through Letterboxd. I have a kindred spirit on there, Story Junkie. If you're watching, sir, I hope you're doing well. I hope your family's doing well. And I really miss our wonderful film conversations. We had such great film conversations. But Story Junkie educated me about this movie. And he did it in the best way, which is to say, hey, if you're looking for something unique, check this movie out. And that was pretty much all he said. And that was all I needed to go, all right, well, I got a recommendation, a solid recommendation from a source I trust. Let's check this movie out. And man, it still holds up is what I have to say. I really like movies that present as one thing and then turn out to be something else. It's one of those things where it works extremely well the first time you watch it. And then when you watch it again, you appreciate that kind of packaging for a movie. And I guess what I mean by that is some of my favorite movies are ones that play with genre. So there's a lot of movies called Freaks. You look it up. There's so many movies with that very title. And one thing that you might find in common with some of them is that it has an element of horror, where if you look at the word and where that word comes in other movies, where there's something where someone's a freak of nature, or there's something freakishly something about them where they look off, they have a weird bearing about them that's not usual, that lends itself to something that is unsettling. And I think spiritually, you can find elements of that in this movie. And it's one of those things where the less you know, the better. So I'm not going to say too much about it, except that this is a movie about a family. So many of the good ones come down to family, in that every one of us has family members. And as such, there are things that immediately put us in the position of the characters we're following. This movie is about a young girl named Chloe, who is basically, she's a homebody. She basically spends all of her days inside the house with her dad, played by Emil Hirsch. And the two of them are shielding themselves from the outside world. There are threats out there where it's too much. And as a result, the young girl has to stay inside. What happens is the girl eventually gets out and then becomes curious about the outside world. And she sort of wants to know and learn more about what that is. What you discover is that it ends up being something that, because again, you think it's one thing, and it is that until it isn't. And I think this is the best way to go into this movie. I would suggest, if you're thinking about watching this movie, don't read anything about it. Just don't watch the trailer. Well, actually, if you watch the trailer, that might give you a taste. The trailer actually is not going to do much for you, I don't think. So actually, you might check out the trailer just to see what you can glean from it. But my leaning is that maybe you don't watch the trailer. Again, if you do, I personally don't think it will mess anything up for you. But like I didn't watch the trailer, and I was pleasantly surprised by this movie. And I thoroughly enjoyed it. And I think in the wake of Final Destination Bloodlines, a movie like that obviously deals with, horror elements. It's also more emotional than previous Final Destination films might have felt. I think probably since the first one. That's probably the most emotional one. I think when you think about that, it feels like, oh, this is Final Destination is the natural progression, I think, after a movie like Freaks. My understanding, though, is that the Final Destination situation was a long process. So you figure Freaks came out in 2018, 2019, they had making these movies can take a long time, and so I feel like Final Destination was the immediate project. And I think when I think about these two movies, it feels like Freaks was an interesting jumping off point to then get to a movie like the Final Destination franchise. I've talked about the atmosphere. This movie does a tremendous job of setting up the atmosphere and the tone in a way that puts you in a mindset. It puts you in a certain kind of awareness that sets you up for the story you think it's telling. And for the most part, it is telling that story, but it just does such a good job of guiding you through the narrative, so that when you get to certain points in the story, nothing feels outlandish, nothing feels like it doesn't make sense. Everything feels baked in and feels natural. Lipovsky and Stein also wrote the script, and I think it helps to have the synergy from the page to the screen is pretty solid. It's not doing anything major. This movie it's not going to be groundbreaking, but it is unique and it is different, and it stands out. I think it should be talked about more. But so if you've seen Bloodlines, then great. I would highly recommend you go back and check out their previous work, Freaks, because it's pretty good and it's surprising in all the good ways. It's got really good acting. Lexi Kolker, I have to single her out. She was an amazing young actor. You see in some movies with child actors how there is a lack of polish. Sometimes it seems like it feels like the child's acting, and then you get this rare few where you have child actors who you see on screen who are just completely natural and are just living the story. You don't question for a minute that the kid is acting. It feels like this kid is like in it. She's living and breathing it. She was an amazing actor. She did a very good job. And I'm surprised. I haven't seen too many other things with her. I don't know if she's still acting or what, but she was killer in this movie. She reminded me of Henry Thomas from E.T. And then Drew Barrymore, obviously, in E.T. Both of them were killer child actors. Which, by the way, reminds me, just speaking of another movie that has like some weirdness, it deals with some other things that are not another family story, but deals with some other elements that are sort of decidedly not what you would expect in a movie like that. E.T. has there are a series of audition videos that are out there. If you get a chance to look up Henry Thomas's audition for Elliot in E.T., he's magical, and you've immediately like the emotion he brings to that audition is wild. So I've teared up watching the audition. And as a kid, E.T. is one of these movies I have to talk about at some point. But E.T. is one of those ones that made me cry as a kid. And the last time I watched it recently as an adult, like it still hits me in the same image. I still cry at that miss. And I think Henry Thomas's performance is ridiculous. And I bring him up as an example of a child actor who it feels natural. And I think Lexi Kolker in this movie is like that. She's like Drew Barrymore. She's like, you think of any really strong child actor that you've ever seen, and I think she can be right up there, right in there, in that group. Of course, the movie also stars Bruce Dern, the great Bruce Dern, Emile Hirsch, yeah, there's just a solid cast of people in this movie, and again, it's not a well known movie. I don't think not a lot of people talk about it. Personally, I've only talked to maybe a handful of people about this movie. Maybe I can count on one hand, maybe two people ever that I know have seen this movie, have talked about this movie. So I wanted to do my due diligence, and I saw it as a duty, given the recent release of the new Final Destination movie. It reminded me, it was like, oh shoot, like those guys, the directors of that movie, have another movie that I really like, and I love that movie even. And I thought, hey man, got to talk about this movie. Check out Freaks, and make sure it's Freaks 2018, Freaks 2019, because there's gonna be a lot of. If you look it up, there's gonna be a Freaks from 1932. There's a Freaks from a couple years ago. There's a lot of different movies called Freaks. So make sure it's the one directed by Adam Stein and Zach Lipovsky, because it's very good. I thought it was pretty awesome. So I'm curious. I'd be curious to know what you think. If you see it, whether or not you think it's awesome, you should know that it might feel a little bit slow. So it might be helpful to temper. I know I'm talking it up, but you might temper your expectations, because for some viewers, it's going to feel like it's going to take a while for things to get going. But when they do get going, you're going to be glad you stuck with it. Thank you for taking the time to hang with me, listen to me rave about this pretty cool movie. That's going to do it. Come on back. I've got some more reviews coming up again pretty soon. I'm getting out of here. But in the meantime, please take it easy, be well, and I'll see you in the next one.